schools wanting to leverage the sector Turnitin integration to provide similarity checking, identification of potential plagiarism, rubric grading, etc., will need to have an account with Turnitin already created. Once your school has a Turnitin account created, the integration can be established from the Sector Teach Connected Apps page. Ensure that the Turnitin integration is enabled, and please contact the Sector Service Desk with any issues. Once the Turnitin integration has been set up, teachers can utilise Turnitin to identify potential plagiarism in their students' work, to leverage the marking and feedback tools, and this also includes rubric grading options. Let's have a look at how to create a Turnitin assessment. The first thing we're going to do is open the program for the class that we're interested in, and we're going to go ahead and create an assessment. Once the Turnitin integration has been enabled, teachers will notice a new checkbox appearing in the View Edit Assessment dialog. And if we check this button, it will create an additional column in the Accessible Criteria table. And what we will see is that provides us with a toggle option to specify which column in the sector marks book should receive any applicable grades or results that have been entered into Turnitin. Only one criteria can be selected. Students still see all of the assessment information through Sector Learn, and so all of the relevant assessment details can still be entered into the View Edit Assessment dialog. If you want your students to be able to submit, make sure that your assessment is visible in Sector Learn. Once we've allowed a Turnitin assessment, you'll notice that the Save button has been altered to say Save and Set Up. If we click this button, it will redirect the teacher to Turnitin to complete the Turnitin settings for the assessment. By default, I will land in my assignment inbox. In this case, obviously there are no submissions yet, and what I'm interested in doing is making sure that my settings are correct. I can amend relevant information for my marking, and I can also access the optional settings, for example, to ensure that the comparisons are drawn from the correct areas. I can ensure that my students can view the originality reports, and I can also utilise any rubrics that have been set up, or I can launch a rubric manager to create a new rubric. Submit my changes, and Turnitin has now saved that information. So this assessment is now present in my Sector Teach program. What you'll notice is that the assessment itself has now gained an external submissions icon, and I can now manage my Turnitin options for this assessment by clicking on this button in the future. As a student, if I come in to view my upcoming assessments, I can see that I have an English assessment set, and in addition to the other options for e-submissions and WISP assessments, I now have access to a new icon where the teacher has allowed a Turnitin submission. If I click on this icon, it will redirect me to the student view of Turnitin, and it will allow me to upload my assessment, which can be done as either a file upload of any type or of course text input. For the purposes of demonstration, we are now going to copy and paste a lovely little tract of internet content, and we're going to put it in as our assessment submission. And we're going to go ahead and click Continue. Turnitin will then go and receive the submission, validate, and ensure that all of the content is correctly stored and put through for the relevant checks. I can now, as a student, click Accept Submission and Save. And we can see here that this particular student has now submitted it and has not yet been graded. If we now go back through through into Sector Teach and the Teacher View, and we go into the Marks book for this particular program, what we will see in our Marks book is the additional assessment that was created, and in the header of that particular assessment we will now see the Turnitin logo appearing. Clicking on the Turnitin logo will launch the assessment inbox view and allow the teacher to view all of the relevant student work that has been submitted for this particular assessment. In shorthand view, student's name, their paper title, when they uploaded it, and you'll also see instantly the similarity rating here. I can click on this to view the similarity matches in the Feedback Studio, and that will also then provide me with a similarity overview, picking out all of the possibly suspicious parts of the text for the student's assessment. Now we can see here that this student's work is quite heavily highlighted. That would be indicating that there are quite a few issues that should probably be looked at. I can provide feedback using the feedback tools within Turnitin, and I can also mark my students' work. If I've set up rubric marking, I can access that from here and apply the relevant rubric results to my grade, or I can just come along and write in a grade directly. I can progress through the student's work as required, and once I've completed that particular work, I can then exit out of that pop-up. The student's grade has now been updated, and if we head back across into Sector Teach, what we will see is that the student's result that I entered into Turnitin has been converted based on the max score for the allocated criterion, and that now appears in the column. Results that are transferred into Sector Teach from Turnitin will always appear with a yellow highlight. I can type over the top of that, in which case it's now showing unhighlighted as raw data. If I hover over that, I can see the Turnitin score across to the left, and if I clear the score that I have typed in, it will revert back to the Turnitin score. So just a quick recap of the Turnitin integration. First of all, we need to ensure that when we create our assessments, we have the Allow Turnitin Assessment checkbox ticked. And we also need to ensure that we specify which criterion the Turnitin marks will appear in. We can always edit after the fact any of the Turnitin options pertaining to the assessment. And once we've set it up and the assessment is visible, students can then access Turnitin via Sector Learn directly to upload their assessments. Teachers can access and mark the work from Turnitin via the Sector Teach Marks book. Accessing the Turnitin assessment inbox, and of course any of the required tools from Turnitin. Any marks that are applied to Turnitin will flow back through to the specified criterion in Sector Teach. If you have any further queries relating to the Sector Turnitin integration, please don't hesitate to contact the Sector Service Desk.